because my husband often says that there's a phrase that says, the proof is in the pudding, but he says, oh no, the proof is in the tasting of the pudding.
Welcome to the Talk Chamber, a production of the Greater Memphis Chamber. The Talk Chamber is the podcast for the latest on the Chamber, economic development, and all things Memphis. This mic is powered by ORTHOSOUTH, world-class orthopedic care across the Mid-South. Today's episode features Gwendolyn Tucker, the co-chair of our Small Business Council at the Chamber. Gwendolyn, thank you for coming on.
Taylor Rand, thank you. It's a joy. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today.
I'm so glad to have you here. Why don't we kick off and you just tell us a bit about yourself and what you do outside of the Small Business Council?
Absolutely. So I've actually been a member of the Chamber for a while. Our business has been, I am president of RIX International. RIX, it stands for our core values. And what we do is we work with growing companies to help them build their leadership pipeline because we know that is so critical and important as organizations grow. To be able to retain their people, retain their clients, as well as to build their bottom line. So that's kind of what I do and lead on a day-to-day basis. And kind of how I got here is I'm an accountant and CPA by first profession.
Let me tell you, not my thing.
And I actually cut my teeth in cost accounting and paper manufacturing. And so prior to joining RIX International, I was actually in paper manufacturing, actually 4 companies, because out of college I joined with Scott Paper, St. Regis Paper Company, then Scott, then Champion Paper Company, and then International Paper, which is how I got here to Memphis. So yes, being on the council, I've learned an awful lot. I love being affiliated with the Chamber. I love what you guys do. And I love what is going on as we help not only small businesses, but really all businesses.
Now, before you came to Memphis, where would you say you were from?
So I grew up north of Pensacola, Florida, in a very small town. And I tell people I was born at the turn of the century. The name of it is Century, Florida.
Oh.
So it's north of Pensacola, but pretty much people know where Pensacola, Florida is. So that's where I graduated from college and started my first job.
Awesome. And now you've been in Memphis. You've worked at International Paper. What keeps you in Memphis?
It's really interesting. A couple of things, because I moved to Memphis in 2000 with an acquisition between Champion and International Paper. And then 6 years to the day, almost, I walked into a room and met the man of my dreams, who is now my husband. He's a native Memphian, and so he's the first thing that keeps me here. But I have come to love the city, but more importantly, I've come to love the people and feel that I can make a difference here. And so I have, I think, grown into the city, and it has grown on me as well.
That's awesome. I love that. Let's pivot a bit and talk about something that you haven't mentioned that you do. You are an author. You have written a book.
Yes, I actually wrote, the title of the book is Called to Lead, What to Do When a Leadership Position Finds You. And it's actually a roadmap to help first-time leaders and those who promote them to kind of lay out the roadmap to get them up and running. Oftentimes, great workers are promoted into leadership positions, but they're not given the preparation to be successful as a leader. And so this book is a tool for new leaders. What we do at RIX is we work with organizations to help companies build their leadership pipeline because it's so key to success. And so Call to Lead, What to Do when a Leadership Position Finds You. And in a couple of days, I'll be able to share with a group of rising leaders in Memphis at the New Memphis Leadership Summit. So I'm thrilled about that.
That is awesome. So what kind of was the turning point or the moment that sparked, I need to write a book about leadership?
Mm-hmm. So I had been creating content for years, and finally someone saw some of the work that I had done, and they said, have you written a book? Have you put this in a book? And then the other catalyst was one day during some quiet time I was studying and reading actually in the scriptures, and the verse says, and the word of the Lord came to this particular prophet and said, write what I tell you in a book. So that was a nudge as well. And then a mentor actually connected me with his publisher. He was on his third book. And he connected me, actually Jay Myers, he connected me with his publisher. And when the publisher saw the manuscript, I told him, I don't know if I'm quite ready yet. And he said to me, you're worth the wait.
Oh, wow.
And so I think 2 months later, I was signing the contract to get my book published.
So now you've had this book out. It's been over a year, year and a half almost, maybe?
Almost, yes.
What has that response been like? What has that taught you about leadership, about, writing, publishing?
It's, about writing content and getting people to read it, because it's one thing to write a book. It's another thing to get people to read it, and then another thing to get them to actually apply it. What I have been so amazed about is that people have come up to me and have shared how much it has helped them. Actually, I was in a chamber event, and I introduced myself, and a young man said to me, he says, you wrote a book, right, called To Lead? He said, I purchased it and I used it when I was moving into my leadership position, and it was very helpful. So those nuggets, because I think sometimes I wonder who will read it, right? And so I am thrilled when someone says they were helped by what I've written and what they read. My mission in life is to leave each person and place better than I found them.
Yeah.
And so what happens is when those sparks and insights, when those things happen, it means that I'm fulfilling that mission.
I love that. So let's talk about leadership and kind of maybe a little bit about what's in the book, but also just since writing it, how things have changed, what you've learned. So what, for a young person, somebody who's stepping into their first leadership role, what would you say is the number one quality?
I think confidence and believing that you can lead, right? When I think back to almost all of the leadership positions that I've stepped into, it's because someone saw traits in me that I could become a great leader. And I think part of it is agreeing with them, that you have qualities and traits, that you can grow into them. There's that age-old saying, is a question about, are leaders born or are they made? And one wise person says, of course they're born and then they're made.
Yeah.
Right? But believing that, yes, you can take this on. And the other piece, too, is not thinking that you have to know everything or do it all by yourself. We all got here with help, and then we're going to be helped as we go into our future.
I love that. And I love that answer, confidence and belief in your abilities and what you can do. I think some people feel ill-prepared or I'm not quite there yet. But a lot of times you don't necessarily have the option to, sometimes it's you were just handed the opportunity to lead, whether you wanted to or not. And sometimes you just got to dive in and believe that you can do it and that you have the skills. But that kind of brings me to my next question about leadership. How can somebody prepare to lead?
So I think a couple of things can happen. I think when I think back to other, situations or events that we moved into, we oftentimes read about it, right? We observed people in those roles. I heard someone say once that some things are taught and other things are caught. And so I think being able to identify those people that you look up to, that you admire, that you would want to follow in their footsteps, not necessarily be like them, but to grow into the person you were created to be, being able to, first of all, own that you are capable and will be capable, not that you can do it now, but that you can build those skills to be able to do it in the future, right? But because we all started at the beginning we all started with zero. We
Yeah.
all started at the same place. And so I think there are, several things. When I look back and I think about the mentors and the people who invested in me, who believed in me, and recently I heard in a movie, there was a person who was being encouraged by something, and she said to the person who was encouraging her, she says, "I am so thankful that you believe in me. Now it's time for me to believe in myself."
Yeah.
And of course, the reason why I wrote my book, because I think often too, I wrote it for first-time leaders and for those who promote them, because people who promote first-time leaders often have forgotten what it was like
Yeah.
to be a first-time leader. And so now it can jog their memory, but also help them be able to lay out a plan of support for that incoming leader to be successful.
So I think within a company and within company culture, it's really important to have a team or have team members who are experienced and can lead a first-time leader, especially when they are in that promoting position. They're the one that is promoting that young leader. Mm-hmm. And it forms this mentor-mentee relationship when that promoter remembers what it's like to be a first-time leader, and is able to recall that and say, here's what you should do, or here's what I did, or here's this story that explained that's similar to this situation. And I think that's something that's really important to company culture and to creating an environment where people want to grow and want to lead. I think, sometimes people don't want to lead because they don't like where they're at. But it's not necessarily they don't like it, it's they don't feel supported.
Correct, yeah. And, as you were saying that, I thought of this is that it's moving into the role of acting as a coach versus a boss.
Yeah.
Right? Because what happens is, and I'm not sure if you played sports, I was a cheerleader, so I supported those who were on the court or in the field. But moving from the role of the player and the role of the coach, they're both very different, right? But when a new leader has a coach, when they have someone who's rooting for them, someone who has the plays, and they also know what the goals are, and they are willing to help that player reach those goals. So knowing that the person you report to and who promoted you is rooting for your success gives that player, that new leader, confidence.
And what did we just say? Confidence is the thing that leaders need to have, belief in themselves, even if they're perhaps not ready.
Absolutely.
So it can be, an anecdotal story or just something that you've watched other people go through. But what would you say is a missed opportunity or a mistake that first-time leaders often make?
Wow. So there are three major career stallers and stoppers. One is the inability to adapt to differences, right? The second one is the inability to build a team. And then third is the inability to get results, okay? And oftentimes when a new leader is promoted, especially from among their peers, they take on a different role. And when they can't adapt to differences and they try to engage the way they used to, sometimes it can be detrimental to their careers. The other thing too is knowing now that I've moved, go back to the analogy of moving from player to coach, but if I'm insisting on still being a player, I can't fulfill the duties of the coach, right? And so what happens is you may move into that role in name, but you're not actually leading, right? And so you talked about leadership development resources, and one of the things that I created, and it's out there for anybody to see, it's called Leader Who Leads. Once you're promoted into a position, because a position is not what makes a leader. What the results they get, that's what makes them a leader. So I think that inability to adapt to differences, that inability to move into that new role and to lead authentically from who they are as they're learning and moving and ramping up the learning curve.
Yeah, definitely. So your book is called Called to Lead, Where can people find it?
Actually, that's a beautiful thing about having a publisher. You can get it out at any outlet almost, novel locally here, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. You can just search it and you will be able to purchase it anywhere. I would love it if you would pick it up and read it.
Awesome. Now, I know all of that good stuff is in there, and we are not done talking. We've got to talk about Small Business Council.
Absolutely.
Tell us, what is Small Business Council and what's your experience with it?
So I participated in Small Business Council meetings and workshops and things like that for a couple of years. I've been on the council, though, for the last 2 years, and this is my first year of leading, co-chairing with Meredith. And it has just been a remarkable experience. Our goal here is threefold. One is to advocate for small businesses, to communicate the things that are coming down the pike that are needed and relevant for new businesses, and then to be able to educate them on the things that they need. So to advocate, communicate, and educate is our threefold goal. And that manifests in certain programming that's relevant for our small businesses. One of the things that we really encourage is that our small businesses are part of a larger ecosystem in the business community. And although we are unique in certain ways, there are a lot of commonalities. And so the question is, how do we identify and address the needs that they have? Because one of the things we really want our small businesses to do is to take advantage of what the Chamber has to offer. Because all businesses, large and small, want to grow, right? Yeah. And so the question is, what does the Chamber offer for those small businesses to grow, to make connections? On the last survey, and Patricia, I just want to give a shout out to Patricia McKinney. I just love her and the work that she's doing. But there was a survey that was done by the last co-chair. And one of the top items was they wanted to know more about effective networking, right? And that means different things to different people. And so we have some upcoming programming on how to network more effectively. And it begins with relationship building, because people cannot like and trust you if they don't know you.
Right. And I was just having this conversation with a friend last week about networking and connecting, because it's one thing to make the connection and, hand out a business card.
Right.
It's another thing to build a relationship.
Correct.
It's another thing to, have a connection that lasts throughout years, time, a period of time. Because what kind of brought all this up for me was I was recently at a conference, and I met up with somebody that I had met at that same conference the year before. And something that he was saying was that when you network, it's not a transactional, I'm not trying to gain your business. Right. Would that be nice? Yeah, great. It would be. But it's relationship building, and it's creating, dare I say, a friendship, something with another person that lasts and keeps going. So next year, if I'm at the same conference, we'll probably meet up again. And it's just little steps to building long relationships.
Absolutely. And I think you said the perfect word when you said it's not transactional. It's not about what I can get, right? It's really an exchange, okay? Because oftentimes we don't know where relationships will lead,
right.
For instance, I met Dottie Summerfield at a totally different organization. Who knew that building that relationship with her would lead to me being on the Small Business Council with her? So you're absolutely right. I think we have to be intentional, but we also have to examine our motives, right? Because people can tell if we're coming to get something from them versus either to give something or to make an exchange, because we never know what might happen from that interaction.
You can tell what people want
Yes.
and are getting out or trying to want to get out of a conversation. And when I network with this guy that I met at a conference in 2025, it's about, he wants to know about, how things are going on the podcast, how things at the Greater Memphis Chamber are going. Am I growing, and are things going well? It's not, hey, Taylor Ann, come buy this product. Hey, Taylor Ann, come use my service. It's about me and my well-being and my profession, and him, his well-being, his profession. And that's what has created this relationship, because I'll say he's probably one of the best networkers I've ever met, because that's how it is with everybody. So, back to small business. Y'all have got these networking events going on. What else do y'all have going on, or what should draw a small business leader into joining the Small Business Council?
So I think a couple of things. Of course, the programming, what the Chamber has to offer, because by being in the room with other small businesses, they recognize that they are not alone. Oftentimes, being an entrepreneur or heading up a small business, whatever the size, it can feel very lonely, right? But knowing that you're not alone, right? You can identify other colleagues. You may identify a strategic partner. For instance, recently, I connected with someone, and we're talking about partnering together on an RFP. So you never know what could happen, but they don't happen if you're not in the room, right? And so that's the important thing. So I think a couple things of knowing, what the Greater Memphis Chamber has to offer, being able to get to know the team here, right? To be able to know, for instance, I reached out and for some marketing assistance, right? And being able to get connected that way. So I think there are a couple of things that happen, and then, people walk away hopefully with an action item, and that they can use to advance themselves and their business forward.
Yeah, I love attending our Small Business Council events. There are so many great professionals in that room who are bright and have so many great ideas that, benefit our community and our economy here. I admire all of those small business owners and leaders, because they're hardworking people with phenomenal ideas. But B, you learn a lot.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what the session, what the programming is. You're learning, whether it's one of the master classes y'all do or one of the mixers. I mean, I'm learning about what somebody else does, or I'm getting marketing assistance. It's really great opportunity, and I highly recommend to any of our listeners, if you are interested in the Small Business Council, even in the slightest, to definitely check it out. It's, one of our largest, so small businesses make up 90% of our membership, and they are the life that brings this, that, keeps this chamber going.
Absolutely, yes.
They power us, and they are part of why we do what we do.
Absolutely, yep. Because every business, large business, was once a small business, right? And so they had to come through this door and through the phase. So if anyone is listening and they're not a member of the chamber and you're a small business, we would love to reach out and talk with you, so that you can identify kind of what the chamber has to offer, and to come and see. Because my husband often says that there's a phrase that says, the proof is in the pudding, but he says, oh no, the proof is in the tasting of the pudding. And so they get a chance to get a taste of what it's like to be able to network, build relationships with other small businesses.
So we are almost wrapping up our time, but I've got one more question for you. So in this first year of being the co-chair, what has been your favorite part? What's something you've learned? Reflect on that experience and give us a little rundown.
So I think the favorite part is getting to know other leaders in small businesses, to find out what they do, and to find out the richness of and level of businesses that are here in Memphis in terms of what Memphis has to offer. So I've loved that. I've also loved having an opportunity to join in the creation of programming, to be able to give ideas about creating programming that our small business leaders would want to attend and could benefit from. And then also getting to know, of course, the staff at the Chamber in a very different way. So it has really been just a great experience all around for me.
That's awesome. Gwendolyn, that is really all I had for you. Thank you for sharing about leadership and telling us about your book and about the Small Business Council and the work that we do here.
You're quite welcome, Taylor Ann. It has been my pleasure, and I look forward to growing with the Chamber and hearing more great things.
We look forward to working with you and growing with you. Thanks. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Talk Chamber. We are so glad you're here. Today, Gwendolyn shared with us about leadership and the Women's Business Council. If you enjoyed this episode or learned a valuable piece of information, share this episode with a friend or maybe even a colleague. Subscribe to The Talk Chamber to keep up with the latest on the Chamber, economic development, and all things Memphis. Follow us on social media at Memphis Chamber, and we'll see you next time.